everybody, it's Gina. Welcome to the Library Mouse, and today we are going to do a tag that technically I was not tagged on, but it looked like a lot of fun. So I originally saw Pat at Book Chat with Pat do this tag, and it is called the Quick to Judge Challenge. So it was created a few years ago by Ali Risdal at Ali Risdal and Jess at Jess Book Girl TV revived the challenge. And it's fun. I think it's fun. Basically, you read the first paragraph. You choose 5 to 10 books. You read the first paragraph out loud of the books that you have chosen, and just suggest that you avoid like sequels or series. And you read the first paragraph of each book. You rank the books based on the first paragraph, but then you add your highest ranked book to your TBR list. So, and then invite others to do the challenge. So that is what we are doing today. So I have 5 books that I'm going to read and rank that I have not read yet. They've been on my shelf for a while. And let's see which ones I choose. So the first book we're going to take a look at is a book called The Breakaway. It is by Jennifer Weiner, and it was published in 2023. I know it doesn't say anything about reading the dedication, but it says, for Tim Carey and all the riders and leaders of the Bicycle Club of Philadelphia. The map at the front. I always find books with maps interesting. So this is the Empire State Trail, bicycle trail. I live in New York, so plus for that, but I know we're only supposed to be reading the first paragraph. So this chapter is titled Abby, 1996. And I'm going to make an executive decision. If there is a lot of dialogue, I'm going to read a solid chunk. Are you ready? She wasn't, but her sister and her brother had both learned how to ride their bikes before they turned 6. And Abby was a few weeks away from her 7th birthday, and her dad had already spent 20 minutes taking the training wheels off her bike. She knew she had to try. Okay, I'm going to hold the seat until you get your balance, and then I'm going to let go. So that is the first paragraph of the book, The Breakaway. The next book we have is a book called After Annie. It is written by Anna Quinlan, and let's see, it was published in 2024. It says, for PMQ, one last time, love never fails. There is a poem at the front that says, your absence has gone through me like thread through a needle. Everything I do is stitched with its color, by W.S. Merwin. Winter. Annie Brown died right before dinner. The mashed potatoes were still in the pot on the stove, the dented pot with a loose handle, but the meatloaf and the peas were already on the table. 2 of the children were in their usual seats. Jamie tried to pick a piece of bacon off the top of the meatloaf, and Allie elbowed him. Mom, he yelled. I know that this is a book that talks about the lives of her husband and her best friend after Annie passes away. I like the way the first paragraph sounds so far. I just don't know if I'm in a place to read this book. The next book is called Sisters Under the Rising Sun a novel by Heather Morris. This was published in 2023. To nurses everywhere, past, present, and future, you make the world a better place. To Sally and Sean Conway, thank you for sharing your mother and grandmother's story. Nora Chambers. And to Kathleen Davis, Brenda Pegram, and Deborah Davies, thank you for sharing your cousin's story. Nesta James Noy. It starts with the prologue. Singapore, February 1942. Nora Chambers sits on Sally's bed waiting for her daughter to wake up. The conversation that follows is the most painful of her life. Telling her of the decision she and her husband John have made to send Sally away with her Aunt Barbara and cousins is received just as she expected. She holds on tight to her distraught little girl, desperate to stay with her mom and dad, crying that she will not leave them, not now, not ever. Even when her two cousins burst into the room full of the news that they are about to embark on an adventure and sail the seas, no less, Sally barely registers their presence. Sally, we're going to Australia, they chant, on a big ship. Singapore is falling. What choice does Nora have? John is in the hospital with typhus. As soon as he is better, they will follow, she promises Sally. So this book is written by a native of New Zealand. It sounded really good when I reviewed it, when I did a book haul a couple months ago, but that's the first paragraph. And the next book is Good Grief. It's written by Lolly Winston. It was published, this is an older book. It was published in 2004. I got this at the Goodwill. It's for Anders and in memory of Marvin Winston, Mary Ann Winston, and Sam Winston. Part 1, Denial. How can I be a widow? Widows wear horn-rimmed glasses and cardigan sweaters that smell like mothballs and have crepe paper skin and names like Gladys or Midge and meet with their other widow friends once a week to play pinochle. I'm only 36. I just got used to the idea of being married. Only test drove the words, my husband, for 3 years. My husband and I. My husband and I, after all that time being single. As we go around the room introducing ourselves at the grief group, my heart drums in my chest. No wonder people fear public speaking more than death or heights or spiders. Another book I think that sounds really good. I don't know. I probably shouldn't let that cloud my ranking. Okay, last but not least, and that will make 5 books, we have a book by Sarah Blake called The Postmistress, a novel. And The Postmistress was published in 2010 for Josh, always. It is a historical fiction. War happens to people one by one. That is really all I have to say, and it seems to me I have been saying it forever. By Martha Gellhorn, The Face of War. So we start out with The Postmistress. There are no chapter titles. There were years after it happened, after I returned from the town and come back here to the busy blank of the city, when some comment would be tossed off about the Second World War and how it had gone, some idiotic remark about clarity, purpose, and I'd resist the urge to stub out my cigarette and bring the dinner party to a satisfying halt. But these days, so many wars are being carried on in full view of all of us, and there's so much talk of pattern and intent, as if a war can be conducted like music. Well, last night I couldn't help myself. What would you think of a postmistress who chose not to deliver the mail? I asked. Don't tell me any more, a woman from the far end of the table cried in delight, shining and laughing between the candles. I'm hooked already. So, there are my 5 books. And they all sound really, really good, I have to say. Now I need to think about how I'm going to rank them. Okay, momentous decision here. We have to rank them. I have to rank them. So, to be honest, I feel like all of them sounded really good. They all had very interesting first paragraphs. They were all written in a way that I like. I don't like a lot of fluff. I like very succinct writing, and I don't like a lot of description. All of those books pretty much met that requirement. I think, though, that after thinking about it, I think this is going to be number 5, Good Grief by Lolly Winston. This is the one about the young woman coming to terms with being a widow. And I feel like at this point in time, I don't want to read about someone becoming a widow. On the same note, After Annie is about the husband and friend of this woman who passes away. And I feel like this is just going to be, these 2 things are too heavy right now for me to read. Even though they both sound really, really good. I think the next book is The Postmistress. I would choose this for number 3. The reason being is that even though I feel like the person, the narrator of the book, is pretty feisty, I'm not sure if I want to read another book that takes place in Europe during World War II. I definitely want to read this book, but I'm not quite sure if this is the one I want. So it kind of leaves me with these 2 books. We've got the Jennifer Weiner book, The Breakaway. The little girl's learning how to ride a bike. Obviously, we know it has something to do with New York and bike riding. I liked that it started out with dialogue. I like reading dialogue. I tend to make movies in my head as I'm reading, with various actors and actresses playing the role of the people that are in the book, and I picture it in my head like a movie. So the more dialogue, the better. But then we have this book, which is The 3 Sisters. Sisters Under the Rising Sun. Sorry, not The 3 Sisters. Now, obviously, this is a World War II book. So we have these women, though, that are put into a Japanese POW camp. And I did like the paragraph, the way it starts. It definitely makes you want to see what happens to Nora, the mother, who has to send her little girl away. And even though it has nothing to do with the way the paragraph is written, this book I could use for Ellen's diversity challenge. The author is a native of New Zealand who now resides in Australia. So I think, and it takes place in Japan at a POW camp. So I feel like, even though this is going to be, I think, probably a lighthearted book, I feel like I could, if I started this book, I could use it for the diversity challenge. So I think I'm going to go with Sisters Under the Rising Sun. It definitely sounds like a different take on a World War II historical fiction book. And then if I finish that, I'm going to put Jennifer Weiner's The Breakaway. But to be honest, all 5 books, just by reading their first paragraph, are books that I think that I would like. So my pick is Heather Morris's Sister Under the Rising Sun. So she's also the best-selling author of The Tattooist of Auschwitz. And I think those are the only two books that I have listed that she has written. So look for this sometime in the near future. It's going on my TBR list. This was a lot of fun. If you watched it and you are not tagged below, please do it and tag me so I can watch and listen to your first paragraphs. So happy reading. See you on the next video.